You've probably heard of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, right? It's huge for a reason. The whole idea boils down to this. How can tiny, almost invisible changes lead to these absolutely life-altering results? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into. We're going to unpack some of its most powerful secrets.
Okay, so let's be real. You start a new habit, you're all in, super motivated, putting in the work every single day, and then crickets. Nothing. The results just aren't there. And that feeling, that frustration, it's so familiar. And that's usually the exact moment where we all just give up. But what if I told you that exact moment of frustration is actually a sign that you're this close to a breakthrough? So here's the deal. This is the root of the whole problem. We expect our progress to look like a straight line, just steadily climbing up. But that's not how it works. In reality, real progress is exponential. It starts slow and then it shoots up. And that gap, the space between what we think should be happening and what's actually happening, James Clear calls that the valley of disappointment. It's a killer. It's where most people quit. But it's also where all the important work is happening under the surface, where the real magic of compounding is just starting to take hold. Okay, so the big question is, how do you get through that valley? How do you conquer it? Well, the answer isn't some huge, heroic leap. It's actually surprisingly small. It's all about focusing on these tiny, tiny improvements that you can barely even notice.
1%. That's it. That's the magic number. Think about it. If you can get just 1% better at something every single day, the way that compounds over a year is just mind-blowing. You don't just end up 365% better. No. You end up over 37 times better. It's just the ultimate proof that these small, consistent actions are what really drives massive, massive growth. Here's a great way to think about it. The San Antonio Spurs, one of the most successful teams in NBA history, right? They have this quote from Jacob Riis hanging in their locker room, and it's perfect for this. It talks about a stonecutter just hammering away at a rock. A breakthrough isn't that one final dramatic hit. It's the result of all the little taps that came before it. Each one of your 1% improvements, that's another tap on the stone.
All right, so we've established that these tiny habits are the key, but this is where the book really flips everything we think we know on its head. It basically argues that our whole approach to getting things done is completely backward. We are obsessed with goals, when what we really should be obsessed with is something else entirely. Goals versus systems. So what's the difference? Well, goals are the results you want to achieve. Systems are the processes that actually get you there. And here's the thing, winners and losers often have the exact same goals. I mean, think about it. Every Olympian wants to win a gold medal. It's not the goal that separates them. It's their daily training system. That's what makes all the difference. Because here's the punchline. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your system.
Okay, let's go even deeper now, because this might be the most powerful idea in the entire book. True, lasting change, it isn't about what you want to achieve or even how you do it. It's about who you want to become.
James Clear uses this great analogy of an onion. Behavior change has layers, right? On the outside, you've got your outcomes, the results. Then you have the process, what you do. But at the very core, the deepest layer is your identity, what you believe about yourself. Now, most of us try to change from the outside in. We start with the outcome we want. But Clear says, nope, that's backward. The most powerful, most effective change works from the inside out. It has to start with your identity.
And this simple shift in perspective, it changes everything. The goal isn't just to read a book. It's to become a reader. The goal isn't just to run a marathon. It's to become a runner. See the difference? Every time you read a single page, you're literally casting a vote for your identity as a reader. Every time you lace up your shoes, even for a short walk, you're embodying the identity of a runner. The habit stops being this chore you have to do and starts becoming a part of who you actually are. There's this fantastic story in the book that illustrates this perfectly. It's about a guy who bit his nails his entire life, and he finally quit. You want to know how? It wasn't through some ironclad willpower. He just got his first professional manicure. And for the first time, he looked down and was actually proud of how his fingernails looked. He started to see himself as someone who takes pride in caring for them properly. He adopted this new identity. And guess what? The old habit just kind of disappeared on its own. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? Well, this is where Claire gives us a really simple, practical framework. It's called the 4 Laws of Behavior Change. For now, we're going to focus on 2 of the most powerful ones, making your good habits obvious and making them easy.
So the first law is make it obvious. Look, our brains are basically on autopilot a lot of the time, just scanning our surroundings for cues about what to do next. And a ton of our habits are triggered by what we see, often completely subconsciously. So it's pretty simple. If you want to build a new habit, you have to make the starting cue for it totally, completely impossible to miss. Check out this example from a hospital cafeteria. They wanted people to make healthier drink choices, so what they do? No lectures, no posters, no nagging. They just redesigned the room. They put bottles of water in every single drink station right alongside the sodas. And the result was incredible. Water sales shot up by more than 25%, and soda sales dropped. Why? Simply because they made the better choice the most obvious one.
All right, on to the next one. The third law is to make it easy. And this one taps into a really fundamental truth about us as humans. We are wired to conserve energy. We will almost always follow the path of least resistance. So if you want to do something, you have to reduce the friction. The harder it is to start, the less likely you are to do it. It's that simple.
This experiment from the book is just fascinating. A photography professor divides his class into 2 groups. The first group, he tells them, you'll be graded on quality. You just need to produce one single perfect photo. The second group, he tells them, you'll be graded on quantity. I don't care how good they are, I just want to see 100 photos. So at the end of the semester, who do you think produced the best photos? It was the quantity group, by a landslide. Why? Because while the quality group was sitting around theorizing about what makes a perfect photo, the quantity group was out there actually taking pictures. They were experimenting, making mistakes, learning, and just getting their reps in. They made it easy to do the work, instead of getting paralyzed by perfection.
Okay, so you've done the work. You've built a solid system. You're focused on your identity. You've made your new habit obvious and easy. But then what? How do you actually stick with it for the long haul, especially after that first burst of motivation wears off? This is where something called the Goldilocks rule comes in. And it's the key to staying motivated. Basically, humans are at their peak motivation when we're working on something that is, well, just right. It's not so easy that we get bored, but it's not so hard that we fail and give up. The trick is finding that sweet spot, that task that's right on the edge of what you can currently do. Let's look at the story of the legendary comedian Steve Martin. When he was just starting out, yeah, he had huge ambitions, but his act was not huge. Not at all. He was performing these really short, simple routines in clubs that were practically empty. But here's the thing, he didn't try to become a superstar overnight. He just focused on making his act a tiny bit better night after night. He'd go from a 5-minute bit to a 10-minute show, then to 20 minutes, constantly tweaking and iterating. He was living in that perfect Goldilocks zone. He was always pushing the edge of his ability, but never so far that it felt impossible or overwhelming. And after doing this for 15 years of that steady 1% improvement, the results were just staggering. He became one of the most successful comedians of all time, selling out huge arenas, a total legend. But it all started with that simple, patient commitment to small, manageable progress. And really, this brings us to a crucial point. At some point, any habit, it's going to get boring. The initial excitement is going to fade. And the real difference between a professional and an amateur isn't talent. It's that professionals stick to the schedule even when they're bored. Amateurs let life get in the way. Professionals show up, they do the reps, and they learn to fall in love with the process itself, not just the final outcome. So as we wrap all this up, I want to leave you with just one question to think about. For just a minute, forget about some huge monumental goal. Instead, I want you to think about your identity. Who is it that you really want to become? And once you have that in mind, ask yourself this. What is the smallest possible action, the one tiny atomic habit you can do today to cast a vote for that person?